What if I told you there are trains that pass through tunnels lined with the bones of the workers who built them? That some locomotives barrel across bridges haunted by the screams of passengers who never made it to the other side, or plunge into abandoned tunnels where the darkness hides something far worse than you'd expect? The frozen passes of the American West, where thousands of men were buried beneath the very tracks they laid, to India, where a colonial-era railway still carries whispers of those who died driving it through impossible mountains. These trains race across cursed bridges, vanish into tunnels that swallowed entire crews, share their rails with restless spirits, and roll along routes so deadly that finishing them was considered a miracle. These are 12 of the most terrifying trains on the planet. Number 12, Churchill Tunnel, Virginia. We're starting our countdown with number 12, and this one sits right in the heart of Virginia. The Churchill Tunnel in Richmond stretches about 4,000 feet underneath Shockoe Hill. Workers bored through the earth between 1872 and 1875, and cave-ins during construction killed at least 10 men. The tunnel stayed in use for decades, moving trains through the darkness. Then came October 2nd, 1925. The tunnel walls gave way without warning. A locomotive numbered 407 got trapped inside along with its crew. They suffocated in the darkness as rescue teams tried desperately to reach them. The bodies were never recovered. The train's still down there today, buried under tons of collapsed earth and brick. Here's where the story gets stranger. Witnesses that night claimed they saw a figure covered in blood running from the tunnel entrance toward Hollywood Cemetery. People described it as having fanged teeth and torn skin hanging from its body. The legend of the Richmond Vampire was born that night. Maybe it was something else entirely. The tunnel's been sealed shut since the collapse. Engineers with sonar equipment in 2024 claim they detected movement deep inside. You can't go in there legally, but that hasn't stopped some people from trying. The cries of the dying crew, some say, still echo through the sealed passages when the night gets quiet enough. Number 11, Hoosac Tunnel, Massachusetts. Number 11 takes us to Massachusetts, to a tunnel that took 24 years to build and claimed around 200 lives. The Hoosac Tunnel runs 4 3/4 miles straight through the Berkshire Mountains near North Adams. Construction started in 1851 and didn't finish until 1875. The workers used nitroglycerin to blast through the rock, and that stuff is incredibly unstable. Explosions killed dozens, cave-ins buried others. The final cost came to about $20 million back then, which translates to roughly $600 million today. Every foot of that tunnel was paid for in blood and sweat. The tunnel operated for about a century before being abandoned in the 1950s. Today it sits sealed off from the public, but the stories keep coming. People who've gotten close to the entrances talk about cold winds that blow from inside even when the air outside is still. Voices whisper from the darkness, calling for help in languages that sound like Irish accents of the laborers who died there. One hiker in 1973 went inside and never came back out. Search teams found nothing. The darkness in the Hoosac Tunnel swallows light up in a way that feels unnatural. Flashlight beams seem to stop just a few feet ahead. Locals compare it to the haunted history of Salem. New England has no shortage of ghost stories, but the Hoosac Tunnel is one of the most persistent. Number 10, the Screaming Tunnel, Canada. Our 10th entry crosses the border into Canada, just a short drive from Buffalo. The Screaming Tunnel near Niagara Falls, Ontario is only about 125 feet long. It's carved through limestone and dates back to the early 1900s. That tunnel was built to let a small stream pass under the railroad tracks above. The terror comes from what supposedly happened inside. The most common version of the legend says a young girl ran into the tunnel to escape a house fire, her clothes already burning. She made it inside but collapsed from her injuries before she could get to the other side. She died screaming in that limestone passage. Now, here's the part that brings people from all over North America. If you walk into the middle of that tunnel at night and light a match, the flame will go out on its own. And when it does, you'll hear a scream. Thousands of visitors have tried it over the decades. The acoustics inside do something strange to sound, amplifying every noise into something haunting. Whether the ghost is real or the tunnel just plays tricks on human ears, the experience stays with people. It sits abandoned now, just a short hike through the woods. Day trippers from the falls sometimes make the journey at dusk, matches in their pockets, waiting to see if the stories are true. Number 9, Phantom Train of Iredell County, North Carolina. Number 9 brings us back to American soil, to the hills of North Carolina. The Phantom Train of Iredell County has been appearing near Statesville since 1891. On August 27th of that year, the westbound train number 9 jumped the tracks of Bastion Bridge and plunged into Third Creek Ravine below. 23 people died in the wreck. The bodies were scattered among the twisted metal and shattered wood of the cars. Every year since then, something strange happens around 3:44 in the morning on the anniversary of the crash. People report hearing the sounds of a steam engine approaching, then the horrible noise of metal scraping and wood splintering, followed by screams. The train appears to crash again over and over, trapped in a loop that never ends. The original tracks are long gone now. The bridge stands in ruins. That hasn't stopped the Phantom from showing up, though. In 2010, a ghost hunter died while investigating the site, struck by an actual train on nearby active tracks while trying to document the phenomenon. The locals consider the ground itself to be cursed. They advise visitors to stay away, especially in August. The southern Gothic atmosphere of the place, the old bridge ruins surrounded by Carolina forest, makes the whole experience feel like stepping into a horror movie that never got an ending. Number 8, Tay-Rail Bridge Disaster, Scotland. Number 8 takes us across the Atlantic to Scotland, where one of the worst rail disasters in British history created a ghost that still rides the rails. On December 28, 1879, the Tay-Rail Bridge collapsed during a massive storm. The bridge was brand new, considered a marvel of modern engineering at the time. A passenger train called number 006 was crossing when the central spans gave way. The entire train plunged into the freezing waters of the Tay Firth below. 75 people drowned. Many of the bodies were never recovered from the churning waters. The anniversary brings the phantoms back. Every December 28th, people near the rebuilt bridge report seeing lights moving across the water where no train could possibly be. The sounds come too, screams echoing across the Firth, the splash of something massive hitting the water. Fishermen have fled the area after hearing the cries. The guilt of the engineer who designed the original bridge, who some say was careless in his calculations, may be what keeps the ghost train running. A new bridge stands there now, stronger and safer, but the spirits of 1875 don't seem to notice. They just keep crossing, keep falling, keep drowning night after night when the conditions are right. Number 7, Silverpilen, Sweden. Our 7th entry comes from Sweden, from the underground metro system of Stockholm. The Silverpilen, which translates to Silver Arrow, was an unpainted aluminum test car used in the 1960s. Most metro trains in Stockholm are painted green. This one stayed bare metal, giving it a ghostly appearance compared to everything else on the tracks. The Transit Authority decommissioned it in the 1990s, but that's when the sightings started. Passengers waiting on platforms late at night report seeing an empty silver train pull into the station. The doors open. Sometimes a few ghostly figures sit inside. People who board the Silverpilen reportedly end up at Keimlin Station, an abandoned stop that was never completed. The station was supposed to serve a neighborhood that was never built, so it just sits there underground, empty and dark. According to legends, passengers who ride the Silverpilen to Keimlin sometimes come back years later, confused about where they've been. Others never return at all. The train supposedly travels in an eternal loop, picking up the lonely and the lost. Sightings have become rarer in recent decades, but Stockholm metro workers still talk about it. Late shifts underground, the tunnel stretching out into darkness, silver glint appearing in the distance where no train should be. For Americans visiting the Nordic countries, it adds a layer of creepiness to an otherwise efficient public transit system. Number 6, Lincoln Funeral Train, United States. Number 6 is the most famous haunted train in American history. The Lincoln Funeral Train carried President Abraham Lincoln's body from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, Illinois in April of 1865. The journey covered about 1,700 miles and took almost 2 weeks. 7 million Americans lined the route to pay their respects as the 9-car black draped train passed through their towns. Lincoln was assassinated at Ford's Theater on April 14th. The funeral train began its journey on April 21st. Now, every year around that anniversary, something appears on the old rail lines. A phantom train rolls through the darkness, draped in black, moving silently through the night. Witnesses describe seeing a skeletal military band on one of the cars, playing music that can't quite be heard. Union soldier ghosts stand at attention as the train passes. Clocks reportedly stop at 7:22 in the morning, the recorded time of Lincoln's death. Sightings have been reported from New Jersey to Ohio along sections of the original route. The train appears, moves through like a memory-given form, and then vanishes. Animals flee the area before it comes. Darkness seems to fall even in the middle of the day when the phantom approaches. Lincoln spoke about the unfinished work of healing the nation in his second inaugural address. Some say his spirit can't rest because the work remains incomplete even today. Number 5, White Pass and Yukon Route, Alaska. Number 5 takes us to Alaska, to a railroad built during the Klondike Gold Rush. The White Pass and Yukon Route climbs from sea level at Skagway up to almost 2,900 feet in elevation. Construction happened in 1898, right when thousands of prospectors were flooding into the region searching for gold. The route crosses 189 wooden trestles, some of them stretching over canyons called things like Dead Horse Gulch. That name exists for a reason. Around 3,000 pack animals died along this route during the gold rush, worked to death or fallen from the treacherous paths. The modern tourist experience runs about $140 for the full excursion. You'll cross over the same gulches on these same wooden structures, updated but still exposed to the elements. Avalanches take out sections of track almost every year. The drops from some of the trestles reach 120 feet straight down. Bears wander through the wilderness alongside the tracks. There's no cell service, no Wi-Fi, nothing connecting you to the outside world for hours. The 8-hour trips to Bennett Lake in Canadian territory feel like stepping back in time to when this land was truly wild. A derailment in 2022 injured 5 people, a reminder that even with modern safety standards, nature has the upper hand out here. Number 4, Georgetown Loop Railroad, Colorado. Number 4 sits right in our own backyard, the mountains of Colorado. The Georgetown Loop Railroad is a 3-mile narrow gauge line that dates back to 1884 in the middle of the silver mining boom. The track climbs 600 feet using a 30-degree spiral trestle that loops over itself to gain elevation. Tickets run about $30 for adults, and families pack the cars during tourist season. The terror factor comes from those high trestles swaying in mountain winds that can hit 50 miles per hour. The drops below reach 100 feet down to the icy waters of Clear Creek Canyon. Blizzards close the route every winter when snow buries the tracks. Rock falls have struck cars over the years. The mini avalanche in 2013 pelted one of the trains with debris. Locals report hearing the sounds of chains rattling in the empty cars at night, the ghosts of silver miners who died in the surrounding mountains making their presence known. The Federal Railroad Administration rates the Georgetown Loop as low risk compared to active freight lines, but the feeling of danger is very real when you're crossing those old wooden trestles with nothing between you and a long fall. It was rebuilt in 1984 for the state centennial and holds a spot on the National Register of Historic Places. Number 3, Devil's Nose, Nariz del Diablo, Ecuador. Our third entry takes us to Ecuador and a stretch of track called the Devil's Nose. The Nariz del Diablo is a 3-mile zigzag carved into the Andes Mountains. Engineers built it between 1901 and 1908, and the construction killed 2,000 workers. Many of them came from Jamaica and Puerto Rico, brought in specifically for this dangerous project. Dynamite blasts and rock falls took most of them. The switchbacks climb about 1,600 vertical feet at an elevation of 9,000 feet above sea level. The restored steam locomotives now charge tourists about $50 for the 2-hour experience. The scariest moment comes at what riders call the end of the world curve, where the cars tilt at a 45-degree angle as they round the switchback. One wrong shift in weight and you're tumbling 500 feet down the Polachosa River Gorge. Altitude sickness hits visitors hard at this height, worse than anything you'd feel in Denver or Aspen. Condors circle overhead, which some passengers find beautiful and others find ominous. A rock slide in 2018 stranded about 100 tourists on the mountain until rescue crews could reach them. The Ecuadorian government revived the route in 2007 as an ecotourism attraction. The rides now include traditional ceremonies performed by local indigenous communities. Pack altitude sickness medication if you go. The views of the cloud forest rival anything in Yellowstone, assuming you can keep your eyes open through the vertigo. Number 2, Mauritanian iron ore train, Sahara Desert. Number 2 is a freight train in the Sahara Desert, and it might be the most physically brutal ride on this entire list. The Mauritanian iron ore train runs 437 miles from the remote mining town of Zuera to the Atlantic port of Nouadhibou. The train hauls over 200 ore cars loaded with 18,000 tons of iron. It runs twice a week and stretches for sometimes 2 miles in length, making it one of the longest freight train cars operated anywhere in the world. Here's the dangerous part. There are no passenger cars. Adventurers hitch unauthorized rides to the open ore cars for $5 to $10, sitting on top of the iron ore for 16 to 20 hours as the train crawls through the desert. Temperatures swing from around 40 degrees at night to 120 during the day. Red iron dust coats everything and everyone, getting into lungs and eyes and clothes. Sandstorms can blind the engineers and derail cars. A wreck in 2021 killed 4 migrants who were riding illegally. There are no brakes or safety features on the ore cars, so sharp curves at 30 miles per hour can throw people right off. Reports from 2025 counted about 12 deaths per year from falls and heat exhaustion. Bandits operate in some of the more remote wadis the train passes through. The company that runs the train, called SNIM, officially bans passengers and fines violators $500. That hasn't stopped the throw of thrill seekers posting their experiences online. Locals say spirits called Jinn haunt the desert wastes. After 16 hours breathing iron dust under a scorching sun, you might start believing them. Number 1, the Death Railway, Thailand, Myanmar. Our number 1 most terrifying train takes us to Southeast Asia to a route that earned its name from the blood of over 100,000 people. The Death Railway stretches 258 miles along the border between Thailand and Burma, now called Myanmar. Japanese military forces built it during World War II between 1942 and 1943. They used 60,000 Allied prisoners of war and about 200,000 Asian laborers to hack the route through dense jungle and across the gorges of the Kwai River. The workers used hand tools and dynamite against impossible conditions. Malaria, starvation, and brutal treatment from guards killed them by the tens of thousands. Bodies were dumped into shallow graves along the tracks, sometimes right under the railbed itself. You're literally riding over a mass grave when you take this route. Today, tourists can ride restored sections of the line from Bangkok to Kanchanaburi for around $30. The train hugs sheer cliff faces where landslides still bury tracks during monsoon season. The bridge on the River Kwai, made famous by the 1957 film, sways under your feet as you cross. The drops below reach 300 feet to waters that are home to crocodiles. The old trestles were built by the prisoners who died constructing them. The wind howling through the jungle sometimes sounds like voices. A derailment in 2019 injured 20 people, proving that the danger hasn't ended. The dry season between November and February is safer, but floods can come without warning. Stops along the route include Hellfire Pass, a cutting through solid rock where 900 Australian soldiers died during construction. The name comes from the way the torches used for night work made the site look like the entrance to hell itself. This railway is a rolling war memorial, a reminder of the Pacific theater horrors that touched American families through the soldiers we lost fighting Japan.